furthering a belief in something that is just as likely as all the other gods or religions. So,
but it also goes back to the question that we had before, where a lot of the panel members said, why doesn't he show himself? Why doesn't he, fix some of the world's problems? We are all pretty empirically minded people. If God would show proof of himself, I think you'd see a whole table full of converts here.
Absolutely.
But we don't see empirical proof that satisfies us of his or her existence.
Gentleman in the green in the fourth row.
I'm curious, at what age did all of you find you believe you what age were you certain you were atheists? When did that come to you?
I was certain, it was probably when I was about 20 years old, but I had been a skeptic ever since I first learned that there was something besides Catholicism. And I'm like, well, why? Well, aren't we right? And my mom said, well, we think we are, but they think they're right. And I started being a skeptic, and that was somewhere around 8th grade. I suppose that kind of came out, when I was 19, 20 years old.
I was about 21, midway through my term in the Army.
I was like agnostic. I don't know, since I was like 6. But then, pretty much determined I was atheist about freshman year.
I have a kind of a similar story to Nate's. As soon as you become aware of other religions, other ideas, you definitely start to think and become more skeptical. I think I was definitely an atheist probably by age 16, I want to say, somewhere in there.
I was like a freshman pretty much when I really started getting into it, and freshman in college, so a few years ago. But mine would also be similar, that around that 8th grade period when I started to ask questions at church and in like religion class, when they didn't have answers besides, God works in mysterious ways, it kind of, that wasn't fulfilling at all. So then you start looking on your own and you realize that there's all these other answers out there and they all say different things. So kind of the same story.
My parents are atheists. I don't know, they never really, it just wasn't a part of our lives growing up. I guess I decided I was an atheist sometime in high school. It was a very conscious decision that I do not actually believe in God. Up until that point, it just didn't really enter into my thoughts.
I was raised Lutheran, and I even went to Campus Crusades for Christ when I went to St. Cloud State. Then I came here, and I just realized that I needed evidence for things instead of just believing.
Hello?
Hi there. I'm a card-carrying atheist agnostic myself. This is why I'm your faculty advisor. This is my coming out party, as a matter of fact. But I have a question really for all of you, but particularly for the young man who has a child. I have a 5-year-old myself. And how do you plan on answering the questions that are inevitably going to come up that your child's going to ask? And how do you plan on kind of dealing with the issue of religion with your children in a society that is heavily religious? And any thoughts would be wonderful.
I have lots of thoughts. I don't know how many of them are real coherent. My wife and I talk about this an awful lot. My wife is a Wiccan. She believes in a nature-based goddess figure. So we have kind of a strange household sometimes. And to make it even weirder, we send our child to a Lutheran daycare. Now, my wife is very against this, especially when he brings home little Bibles that have his scribbling on them and stuff. And it's fine. I think it's very cute. I like putting them up on the fridge with magnets and so on. I would like to keep him in the Lutheran daycare because I would like to expose him to as many things as we can so that when he gets older, he can make a decision based on what he knows and what he's learned and what he's experienced. And if he becomes an atheist, great. If he becomes a Christian, great. Or a Muslim, great. Or Jewish, great. Scientologist, we'll talk. I want him to reach that conclusion based on what he's seen and what he thinks and what he knows. Not that at home he had atheism beaten into his head or Wiccan beaten into his head. And does that answer your question?
It certainly does. Yeah, I'd be interested. I'm sure the rest of you are giving that some
I also
thought.
have 2 kids and actually one on the way. I have a 6-year-old, 18-month-old, and I have a baby that's going to be due Full house.
Congratulations.
We don't preach or anything, you know. She's brought stuff home from her grandparents' house, little Christian books that tell like the story of Noah's Ark and stuff like that. She reads it, and we just read it like a fairy tale, you know. And when she gets older, she can make her own mind up. We're not telling her that there is no God. We're telling her, look, your mom and I, we don't believe in God. Grandma and Grandpa do, you know, and we're going to let her make her own decision. Right now, she hasn't really brought it up, so it hasn't really been a concern yet at 6 years old. So. Any follow-up?
Oh, no.
In the front?
Yeah, I think that you've done a really good job of clarifying that atheism is merely just a lack of a God belief, and that we all have different ideas about the world and how we run our lives, blah, blah, blah. You know that morality is going to be something that a lot of people are concerned about. And I know, like, I, for instance, would say I'm also a humanist, I'm also an existentialist, first I'm an atheist. Do you subscribe to any life philosophies? Can you kind of explain that and use that to help explain how we come about our morals?
I would say that's kind of the fun part, is reading all those things, because if you decide to read about humanism and think these are good ideas, it's not a taboo because of your beliefs. Like we said, atheism isn't really anything, it's just a lack of belief. So personally, I don't necessarily subscribe to anything. I'd probably take some, you'd have to ask me a specific issue, and if I've researched it, I'd give you an answer. You know, I can't say it. I'd always answer, you know, Democratic or whatever, but I think that's kind of the beauty of atheism, is that you can pick different life philosophies that make sense to you. So I don't know if anybody else has specifics. But
I don't subscribe to any one either. It's kind of a smorgasbord of, you know, humanistic ideas and related things.
The golden rule applies to everyone. You want to others as you would have done unto you, which is always a good one to live by. And to my personal opinion, the acquisition of knowledge should always be a lifelong goal. Never stop learning until your dying day.
I'm a pluralist, which is, I don't know if it's a life philosophy, it's just physical evidence and reason and logic.
I think most of us would probably fall into that too, that you only accept things based on that criteria, unless it's something outside of the physical realm, I suppose, like just ideas about philosophy and stuff you can't answer with those things necessarily. But
Follow up?
Well, the reason I ask is just because I would assume that a lot of people who are Christian or any other religion, specifically even denominations, I don't think they necessarily think of life philosophies, and they don't think of that as a way of building morals or trying to define what's in your life. And I think most people just think that atheists have a free-for-all with their morals, so it's a good thing to clear up.
Yeah.
Questions? In the back?
The past couple of months I've been reading C.S. Lewis. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
He made a strong statement that has really impacted me, is how if you declare yourself an atheist, you have to declare that past thousands of years, all these billions of people have made the wrong mistake of choosing to live for a God. Are you willing to completely say they're all wrong?
yeah.
Yes.
I think if you became a Christian, you'd have to say that the billions of people who believed in all the other religions are the same. They were all wrong, and they all went to hell. So I find that a harder pill to swallow, I think, than just that they were wrong about their specific belief. And there's no punishment for them because there is nothing. But
you're also categorizing Christians as one group, saying, I'm a Christian, and I'm going to tell